I guess we'll just jump right into it right now. Start bench cut because this could we could sidetrack with these conversations a lot.
No doubt.
Start bench cut, Luka, SGA, Tatum. Here's where I have an issue with what you're saying, John. I have an issue with what you're saying because you're doing the start bench cut off of I'd rather have SGA's skill set coming off my bench.
Right.
But when I think about start bench cut, I'm thinking about
who's
1, 2, 3, who's the best player? Who's the best? Who's the second best? Who's the third best? So I don't want you to get your way out of the question.
That's a fact.
Number one, we know it's Luka Doncic. He's the best by far here.
The
we all know
two-way
that.
ability of SGA could be a conversation more so than what we think.
It is no conversation. Luka Doncic led the number one ranked offense in NBA history in his second year. Has made the conference finals. Has went toe-to-toe with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Outplayed Kawhi, one could say, too.
How many times did SGA miss the playoffs?
As a true superstar? Once.
Well,
at least he made it to the
why is Luka getting knocked for being more of a true superstar for more seasons?
No one's knocking him for that. No one absolutely is not knocking him for it. I'm not taking anything away from what Luka. So
I don't want to hear.
I'm just also stating a fact where he's ascending. He's been a 4-time All-NBA player, and you can argue some of the peak of his powers. He's only going to get better.
Right.
We saw him miss the playoffs last year.
Yeah, because they blandly tanked down the season.
And that's disgusting.
You know what?
Imagine.
On the list of why the Mavericks missed the playoffs, how high was Luka on that list?
No, he's probably dead last.
Okay.
Yep, dead last.
I think
or you can argue him getting injured.
You could say his body language.
There you go. I was going to say.
But that's like number 14 on the
list. Him getting injured, you could say it's around 1 or 2.
We all know Luka is starting. If there was a tier between starting and then being like the superstar on the team, that's what Luka is. Yeah, he's by far. He's that guy.
He is.
And the Mavericks looking scared this year. They're looking very scared.
They dropped back to the AFC seed. How you had a taste of being that top 6 lock. Now they dropped back.
They're going another 7-game win streak. They'll be right back up there.
They could scary 6 seed before though.
Benching, I think now becomes a little bit hard. And listen, quickly, each of you guys give who you're benching, and then we'll get into the reasonings as to why. Right. So, Drew, who are you benching?
So, again, like you mentioned, we're starting Luka Doncic. All jokes aside, I mean, the guy's special offensively. There's nothing he cannot do. For him to up his three-point percentage the way that he has this season, that's what's moved me the most. Everything that he's been doing this season, we've all known that he can do outside of the efficiency from 3. So, we're starting Luka Doncic for sure. Benching, I have to pay respect to Jayson Tatum. I hear you. SGA is one of the best ascending players that we've seen over the last 2 seasons. You can argue in the last 2 seasons, he is number 1 in that conversation. But when it comes to Jayson Tatum, we're talking about a 3-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Star. He was already able, this young into his career, before turning the age of 25, to reach the NBA Finals. He didn't play well in that Finals, but on his way there, he was pretty damn excellent. And we've seen him have multiple playoff appearances where he is, and leaving a series, the best player in that series. We saw it against the Milwaukee Bucks. We've seen it multiple times against the Miami Heat, even in a series where he lost last season, down 0-3 to the Miami Heat. I still would say Jayson Tatum was the best player in that series. So I look at it in this regard, in the two-way ability of a Jayson Tatum. He may not have the efficiency scoring that SGA does, and I understand SGA's defense by itself is elite, but it's something about being that wing perimeter defender that just allows me to feel a little bit more secure with Jayson Tatum for what he's shown me already this soon into his career. Jayson Tatum, I get it. We use it that he has a super team against him. To me, being the best player on that team, you obviously are elevating to a level that not many other teams are showing you right now. Mm-hmm. So with respect to SGA, who has been a top 2, at worst top 3 MVP candidate this season, for what Jayson Tatum has shown me for multiple seasons, I have to go with Jayson Tatum here and unfortunately make the harsh decision of cutting SGA.
Respectable pick. I'm going to be benching Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm going to be cutting Jayson Tatum.
So you think SGA is a better player? Let's just get that straight.
That's what the statement is.
That's ultimately what I'm saying.
Okay. How can we say
Shea is
that?
the clearly more efficient player. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's entering Michael Jordan territory. 30 points per game, on over 50% shooting, and 2 steals. Defensively, he's on Tatum's level. But offensively, with the way that he can play, I feel like he's got a much higher floor than Tatum. The same way Luka has a much higher floor than Tatum because of his ability to elevate people as a playmaker, Shea's ability to get downhill and creating inside the arc, and then he's taking his 3 threes a game and making 37 to 38% of them. I think that's a higher foundation for me to build off of. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think the conversation becomes, okay, well, who is one more? But Shea this year is leading a team on a 57-win pace too, in a Western Conference that's even more deep, I would say, in the Eastern Conference. So
no doubt there.
It's a hard decision. I think Tatum's a respectable pick, but that's when I get off my chest. I do have Shea above him for those reasons.
Now, JC, what do you think about John not only putting SGA above Tatum, but saying that he's entering Michael Jordan territory?
I understand what you're saying.
I get
by
statistically,
that
I get what he's saying.
Yes.
I mean,
But do you think it's too soon to make that statement? It's okay if you think it's too soon to make that statement.
I mean, I don't know. We're talking based off numbers, yeah. Impact, like I said, like not my biggest problem because he's a great player. I just have to see SGA as a true number one in the playoffs.
Fair enough.
This is amazing in the regular season, and I trust me, he's averaging 2 steals a game. He's scoring 30 points. Like Michael Jordan's done that multiple times, so I get the statistic comparison. But like I'm with Drew. I'm taking Jayson Tatum. Like with all of Jayson Tatum's ups and downs in the playoffs, like we've seen a 50-point game 7, we've seen a 46-point game on the road.
Yep.
Obviously, we've seen him struggle in the finals, but he's gotten there. Series that he hasn't been the favorite. I mean, he's gone toe-to-toe against the likes of Kevin Durant in a run with Kyrie Irving. The next round with Giannis. Obviously, he didn't have Chris Middleton, but that series still went 7. He performed great. Next round against Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat, they're always a threat to, be there. Like, I don't know. Like, I've just seen Jayson Tatum more battle-tested. SGA, I have to see him go through an entire playoff run as the man. Last time he did it in the bubble, he was a number 2 to Chris Paul, and he wasn't as seasoned or as great as he is now.
But he underperformed given the role that he played for OKC that year. He did not play his best in the playoffs. If SGA played better, they would have beat Houston in that series.
How old was he, if I'm not mistaken?
20?
What, 20?
He was in the
22.
second year. He was averaging 16 to 18 a game for OKC.
Definitely second. So he was definitely
I get
a
it. It's
second
your
option
first
for him.
taste of the playoffs. You want to see
Second,
him.
too.
He was
nowhere near what he is now.
21 years old.
Yeah.
Another
21
thing
years
is,
old.
I mean, I know he gets a huge whistle. I mean, I'm kind of interested to see how that goes in the playoffs. I'm not going to flat out here and say that he's going to be underperform in the playoffs because he does have a 3-way level. He's a 3-way level scorer. He can shoot the 3, he can shoot the mid range. Those things are important in the playoffs. But like I said, when that whistle gets tighter and the game gets more physical, like I just have to see it. I mean, SGA, top 2 MVP candidate for sure. He's had a fantastic regular season. He's one of my favorite players to watch, if not my favorite to watch out of these guys. But I need to see a dominant postseason run before I can put him over these 2 guys. So I'm just going with the safe pick. I'm going with the 2 guys that I've seen. But can SGA do it? Hell yeah, he can do it. But I have to see it.
I feel like with Jayson Tatum, what's going to define him is really this last 3-year stretch. And going into this season, I think this season is make or break. And it's hard to say that for a guy so young, but this is the most talented roster in the league right now, and the most talented roster that we've seen in a while since the 2019 Raptors. You have the Warriors teams with KD on there. This Celtics team, not up there with the Warriors, of course, but up there with every other greatly built team, roster, supporting cast. Tatum was drafted to a 50-win team, to a first seed in the Eastern Conference in the Celtics. Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, they go down for the playoff run. Him, Jaylen Brown, Rozier, Al Horford, they all do their job and play their roles. They make it to the ECF. The very next year, when they get Kyrie back and they get Gordon Hayward back, they underperform in the playoffs. In that second round versus Milwaukee, it wasn't just Kyrie who played bad. It was Jayson Tatum who played terribly in that series as well. Then you go into the third year in the bubble with Kemba Walker. They make the ECF. They lose to the Miami Heat. They don't make the finals. Then the year after that, Jayson Tatum does not have a very good team in the first round facing the Nets. He still manages to get a game. He has a great game, and he manages to get them at least one win. The year after, you got Ime Udoka coming in. They beat KD and Kyrie. JC mentioned that run. They went on one of the best in-season turnarounds that we've seen in the history of the league. Jayson Tatum, that was a defining run for him, but in the finals,
turning point of his career, for sure.
So that's the start of year one where we're starting to really harshly criticize Jayson Tatum. That's a start because we're seeing he's a number 1 player. He's a superstar for sure. Then that second year, last season, you go down 0-3 to the Miami Heat to an 8-seeded team. And in the first round, the Hawks give you a fight. In the second round, the Sixers take you to 7.
3-2. They go up 3-2. Your back's against the wall. You have to clutch up.
And in one of those games, they did not have Embiid. How many games did they not have Embiid? I think it was one.
He missed game 1.
Yes,
game 2.
and they won that game.
They did.
Yeah.
And that's the game that the Celtics should have won. And I just feel like too often they feel or they walk into games thinking they're so much better and they lay their foot off the gas.
Most definitely.
So Atlanta, the Sixers, you could have put them out earlier. You go down 0-3 to the Miami Heat. So in the last 2 to 3 years, they've been eliminated by an 8th seed in the conference finals. Jayson Tatum has underperformed in the playoffs in the finals.
You're making me laugh for calling Miami the 8th seed. That's what they were
in the finals. In the finals, Tatum underperformed. You're right, since the Knicks. Right?
When did Tatum underperform?
In the finals. He underperformed in the finals. So now this year, we're looking at Tatum and we're saying, you have the best roster in the NBA. I think we are all recognizing that they should coast through the East.
They should make the finals, bro.
I don't think there's a team in the East that should take them past 6 games.
A healthy Knicks team is a great series.
A healthy Knicks team.
Miami.
Yes, a healthy Knicks.
That's a
Miami
very good
team,
statement, John.
But I still think with the Celtics' talent, that should be at most a 6-game series.
I agree.
They should coast through the East. It's really about the West. And now Tatum will be on that stage again and has to perform to the level that we think he could perform at. So I think this year will be the 3rd year of the last 3 that I feel like is really going to define him. And we're going to either look at Tatum as being the alpha number 1, he's a superstar player, or being more so in the Paul George realm.
Yeah.
A guy that he's a great number 2. He's probably on a top tier number 2s. But can he be by far the best player on your team to win a championship? We might be looking at Tatum and say, we don't know if he can totally be that. As of right now, I'm benching Tatum. But I think John is onto something. I look at SGA's skill set and what he can do as a playmaker, how he can handle the ball, how he can hit the mid-range shot, which is something that Tatum still struggles with as a volume shooter.
Yeah.
SGA is just he's an efficiency
extremely
god.
refined.
Further along.
Extremely refined.
Score.
I feel like SGA, it just feels more real to me, the scoring impact that he has. It feels like in a tight game in the 4th quarter, if you need a basket, I'm like, I think anything that SGA puts up is going in.
But you could say the same thing about Jayson Tatum.
I don't know what happened in the finals. It happened.
Okay, come on. But again, we've seen in moments already in the playoffs when back against the wall. Game 6 in Milwaukee.
Game 7 last year against
Game
Philly.
7. That's a fact. When your back's against the wall, Jayson Tatum can rise to the occasion. I agree. NBA Finals is a huge blemish. I'm not going to say you're wrong there. But that was
second round of second year 2.
Okay, really? We're going to do that?
Oh, yeah, we're going to do
Even though Kyrie Irving came in, clearly the vibes were off. Not that it wasn't a talented team. The chemistry was simply not there.
Still got to perform. Still got to perform.
But you know what? You give credit to the Boston Celtics and Jayson Tatum for their midseason turnaround, where he addressed himself as the leader, the number 1 on the team. There was an issue in terms of adjusting to roles, identifying what's your individual role. Yeah. And Jayson Tatum stepped up to the plate and said, hey, I am the number 1. I can do not just my part offensively, but I'll step up to the plate defensively, and I will 1,000% change the way that teams look at us. And you're 1,000% right. In a series versus the Brooklyn Nets, we're not talking about Kevin Durant as the best player. Kyrie Irving, who's been an unbelievable, a really good playoff performer. 2016 always stands out.
Of course.
We're talking about Jayson Tatum as the best player in that series. Clearly. No question about it.
For sure.
With the likes of Kevin Durant, at worst top 12 player of all time.
It wasn't a good series for him.
So all I'm saying is we just need to give a little bit more respect for what Jayson Tatum has done in the playoffs before the age of 25.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. The biggest question with Tatum and his case for being better than Shea is how good of a three-point shooter is he? Because his play style is dependent on volume shooting, especially from the perimeter. In that 2022 playoff run, he shot 39% from 3. I would imagine that number went down after his finals performance, and it was probably somewhere in the 40s before then. But then last year, he simply stopped. He didn't make his shots, and he was only making 32% of his threes in the postseason. And that's what led to them leading the first-round series to nearly 7 games. Which version of Tatum, the volume shooter, are we getting is the question that I have. And because of that variance is why I prefer a guy in Shea who just has a more refined, consistent, and higher floor as a guy to build around.
So you're essentially saying that you've seen the version of Tatum in the playoffs that we get. You haven't seen it from Shea, but you are assuming
even if
what
Shea
it is going to be.
Super inconsistent in the postseason, I'll say inconsistent because Tatum's not super inconsistent. We've seen Tatum show a lot of variance. With Shea, we don't know yet, but it's not like Tatum has a high enough foundation. He's not an NBA champion, despite having I would say 3 rosters that could have won a championship. So yeah, I would say even if Shea doesn't have a great postseason, if he has a good one, it won't hurt his case.
So of course, out of all these 3 guys, we know the one that's most likely to win a championship, and you can look at all the sportsbook odds.
Jayson Tatum.
It's Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics. No, we know that.
I know. I thought you were going to say Luka too.
We understand that, but we know that sometimes sportsbooks can be wrong. Sometimes it's not the favorite. I remember back in 2011, the Heat were the favored team, and then who won that year? The Dallas Mavericks, Dirt and the Whiskey. This year,
they underdogs in every single series on the way there. Yeah,
yes.
So
they beat
crazy.
the Lakers, the Blazers,
swept the Lakers too.
OKC, beat the Heat.
Unbelievable postseason run.
It was, and I'm looking at maybe Dallas this year got some of those vibes. John, what do you think? A vibe where they could just run through.
What's the year right now? They actually the 8th seed?
They fell back to the A seed. They had a nice taste of being a top 6 seed.
What if the Mavericks play Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs? Who wins that series?
You tell me.
Oh,
Mr.
John,
Minnesota.
Don't pull that heartstrings.
Mr. Minnesota. Do a job.
We're not here to pull.
What do you
think?
Do a job. I don't know. I think that series goes to 6 or 7.
I'm taking Dallas.
Against Minnesota.
I'm taking Dallas.
Against Minnesota.
I am taking Dallas.
Okay. Why are you taking Dallas?
Luka Doncic goes buck wild.
Yeah,
bro.
he goes
crazy.
He does.
I don't know, man. I think Minnesota's offense is a little shaky. I don't know. Like, you have 2 of the best offensive players in that series on the same team.
2 best?
You could argue that's
Kyrie
a fact.
and Luka? I mean,
you could argue that's a fact.
You want to take Ant-Man over Kyrie? I mean, I guess you're splitting hairs as an offensive player. I've seen Luka take some crazy teams to 7 games. Like, better teams than this Minnesota team. I'm taking Dallas.
That Minnesota defense is real, though. The Minnesota defense is
not the best of all time.
No, you don't stop Luka.
Nobody's stopping Luka, bro.
But that'll be a great series.
It's just offensively. I have my I'm skeptical
after that
about
Bucks
them
game
offensively.
The thing with that series, though,
but that's a regular season game.
It's a series that Gobert can stay on the court for. It's not one of those where you kind of have to take him out, or you understand what I'm saying in terms of lineup adjustments, where Daniel Gafford would be on the court, and not Daniel Gafford, of course. Derek Lively. It's not that type of guy that's going to go and stretch you out. Exactly.
Mavericks can't play 5 out the way
they cannot. They cannot. Which is why I give Minnesota probably that edge there, because you get to keep your rim protector, your defensive enforcer on that side of the ball. I would take Minnesota 7.
Or can the Mavericks play 5 on out the way they did?
If they start
if they
put Maxey at the 5,
that's what I'm wondering.
Or PJ Washington at the 5 and Maxey at the 4.
Oh, John.
That gets nasty.
I mean, maybe.
It gets nasty.
That gets nasty.
PJ is the liability there. He hasn't found his 3-point shot in Dallas.
He hasn't in a little bit.
Yeah. Daniel Gafford's been awesome. He's been really good. But that is still, if you tell me Gobert's in a series where he gets to be comfortable, I'm going to take that side. And I know Luka Doncic is Luka Doncic, but I only mean it for the identity of what Minnesota is and what Rudy Gobert's impact has been for Minnesota this season. I understand the best player is Anthony Edwards. He's going to get his, no doubt about it. I don't worry about Ant. But what version of Cat are we going to be getting? Because you need him to be at 100. You need him to be at 100. But I would still take Minnesota in a 7-game. That's not me trying to cite that. Because of their defense. And I think Anthony Edwards is made for the playoffs.
Well, listen, I don't want to get into hypotheticals because I know that Dallas will move up in the standings. They won't face Minnesota. Minnesota will keep that first.
You better hope so.
Minnesota will keep on advancing in the playoffs because, they're going to make some noise this year. I know it. Okay. So will Dallas, though. But for the sake of conversation, between SGA and Luka, the Mavericks and OKC, who's going farther in the playoffs this postseason?
I still think OKC is a better team. I understand that Dallas has been slowly but surely getting healthier, playing more consistent basketball. I look at OKC and legitimately feel that there is no blemish with this team. I'm not calling them championship favorites.
Small blemish?
Even with the
size,
even
rebounding,
if that's the case, unless they're going up against Nikola Jokic, there's exactly unless they're going up against Nikola Jokic. I don't think that Chet Holmgren's going to get exposed from Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I really don't think that would be the case, especially going up against Minnesota and Chet. Chet's going to be able to stretch the floor, and now Minnesota's defense becomes not as secure as we'll see in other series. But against Nikola Jokic, of course, I'm not dumb. Nikola Jokic is 1 of 1, and he's one of arguably the strongest player in the league. He's gonna get his against Chet Holmgren, no doubt. But I look at OKC and legitimately think, they have shooting. You don't have to worry about that. They have a presence on the inside. They can beat you around the free throw line extended. Their defense is elite. What am I going to worry about in that series? Other than, of course, the guy, Luka Doncic, who's going to get his.
To answer that question, the Thunder have a higher floor because they're seeding, but the Mavericks have a higher ceiling to me. If the Mavericks get round 1 upset, I could easily see that team go in the conference finals.
Solely because of Luka.
And I would say the Thunder going further, I'm a lot more optimistic in them getting to the second round, and I think they'll have a 50-50 chance then getting the conference final.
What do you think, JC?
Who goes farther between these two? I'm gonna have to go Dallas. I'll double down on Dallas beating him. I'm going with Dallas, man. Like we said, Luka Doncic is one of the greatest playoff performers ever.
He's amazing.
I just checked his playoff statistics. Like, I believe he's second or third all time in playoff points. He's almost averaging a triple double.
Yeah,
like
him and
Paul
Michael.
George and Andrew Wiggins.
The X factor obviously is Kyrie Irving. Is he gonna show up? If we get a committed Kyrie Irving that can play the secondary Robin role, not similar to 2016, because that might be hard to replicate. But if he can be that certified Robin, I think that this team, I agree with John, I think this team has a higher ceiling. Because if they win a first round series, I can, not easily, but I can see them making a conference finals run.
Because that first round series is going to be against one of the elites.
You know what I wish? I wish, like, if it could be possible if these teams could match up in the second round so we can really have, like, a surefire answer. Hopefully the seeding, everything proceeds the way it should be, because that playoff series between OKC and Dallas would be so fire.
It'd be a movie.